Hello everyone! Hello mathematicians! I'm Kate Catherine Flores from BS Math 1A, your regular students. So, this video tutorial, we will be discuss about properties of integers. So, what is an integer again? An integer is the number 0, a positive natural number, or the negation of a positive natural numbers. Okay, let's proceed the properties of operation on integers. So, here's the properties of integers. Closure property, commutative property, associative property, distributive property, identity property, and the last is inverse property. Okay, let's have the first property. We have the closure property. The closure property, if a and b are two integers, a plus b, a minus b, and a times b is also an integer. So, here's the example. 14 plus 30 is equals to 44. We all know the 14 is an integer, 30 is an integer, and the result or the sum is an integer. For multiplication, 3 times 5 is equals to 15. 3 is an integer, 5 is an integer, and also 15 is an integer. Therefore, even when we add, multiply, or subtract, the result is also an integer. Okay, another properties we have the commutative property. So, what do you mean by the commutative property? Commutative property, changing the order of the numbers in addition or multiplication will not change the result. So, let's have an example. If I have a plus b, kapag pinagbaliktad daw natin yung order niya, ginawa nating b plus a are still equal. For multiplication, if I have a times b is equals to b times a, if pinagbaliktad pa rin ba natin siya, equal pa rin ba? So, here's the example. 3 plus 5, so let's try to interchange. 5 plus 3, so this is the example of commutative property. Now, 3 plus 5 is equals to 8 and 5 plus 3 is equals to 8. So, what have you noticed? So, they are still equal. Another example, I have 4 times 5, so same lang sa addition property of commutative property. So, is equals to 5 times 4. So, 4 times 5 is equals to 20 and 5 times 4 is also is equals to 20. So, this is the example of commutative property under of multiplication. So, again, our two examples is commutative property of addition and commutative property of multiplication. So, what we say, if commutative property, even when we change, the order, the result is just the same. Okay, next, let's have the third property, the associative property. If the commutative property is changing the order, then the associative property is changing the grouping. So, associative property, changing the groupings of numbers that are being added or multiplied does not change the value. Okay, let's have the representation. So, if I have a plus b or the quantity of a plus b plus c, what do you mean by the by grouping? So, that means this is the parenthesis of a plus b. Is we need to apply in b plus c. As you can see, ang nakagroup na is yung b plus c. And yung a plus b on the right side of equation is b plus c na ang magka-group. For multiplication, so the parenthesis of a times b is magka-group. Then on the right side, the parenthesis of b times c is sila na yung magka-group. This is what do you mean by groupings. So, this is called changing the grouping of associative property. Okay, so let's have an example. The quantity of 3 plus 5 plus 2 So, on the left side is magkasama yung 3 and 5. On the right side, the 5 and 2 na is yung magkasama. So, ang nangyari is, on the right side is hindi na nakagrouping si number 3. So, let us solve. 3 plus 5 is equals to 8. So, bring down 2 or so plus 2. And on the right side is equals to bring down the 3 or 3 plus. So, ipagpapas lang natin yung 5 plus 2 is equals to 7. Now, as you can see, the result is different but they are still equal under associative property. So, 8 plus 2 is equals to 10 and 3 plus 7, that also is 10. Now, what have you noticed? They are still equal. So, therefore, associative property is true under the addition. So, I have here the quantity of 2 times 3 times 4. So, if we applied in associative property, that will become 2 times and 3 and 4 na is yung magka-group. Okay, let's solve. 2 times 3 is 6 and then bring down 4 equals to 2 times 3, the quantity of 3 times 4 is equals to 12. So again, they are different, but let's see if we will still get the same answer or result. 6 times 4 is equals to 24 and 2 times 12, the answer is also 24 and they are equal. So we have associative property of addition and associative property of multiplication. So again, rearranging the parentheses in an expression does not change its value. So it's called associative property. Let's have the fourth property, which is distributive property. From the word distribute or give shares of something or deal out or spread. Distributive property, when two numbers have been added or subtracted and then by a factor, the multiplied by the factor and the product are then added or subtracted. Now, if I have A times the quantity of B plus C, so A multiplied by B, so that we have A times B. And then CA again multiplied by C, so it's equal to A times C. Now, this is addition because the operation of the given is addition. Then, in subtraction, A times the quantity of B minus C, so why we have A times B? Because A times B and A again times C, so we have A times C. And now this time this is a subtraction. Let's have an example. So, if I have negative 6 times the quantity of 5 plus 3, how are we going to illustrate this distributive property here? So, negative 6 times 5, so this is our first integer, so equal negative 6 times 5. And next, for the second integer, negative 6 times 3, copy and paste on the right side. Take note of the operation or addition because the given operation is addition. So we have negative 6 times 5 is equals to negative 30, and then negative 6 times 3, so that is negative 18. Now, if we back to our rules, add and minus, so negative 30 and negative 18 are same sign, so add and keep, so that's negative 48. Now, let us see if same result pa rin if we didn't use a distributive property. So, let us see if negative 48 are the answer too. So, bring down the negative 6 times 5 plus 3, the answer is 8. So, negative 6 times 8 is negative 48 too. As you can see, using the distributive property, the result is just the same. So, therefore, distributive property under addition is true. Let's have subtraction. So, we have 4 times 4 and then 4 times 2. Now, take your note, the operation is already subtraction. So, 4 times 4, that's 8, 16. And then, 4 times 2 is 8. So, 16 minus 8 is equals to 8. Now, without using distributive property, bring down the 4 and then 4 minus 2 is 2. So, 4 times 2 is 8. So, this is 8, what is called distributive property. When multiplication is distributed to addition and subtraction. The fifth identity or the fifth property is the identity property. So, what do you mean by identity property? So, identity property states that adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing a number by an identity element does not change the original number. By the way, we have two identity property, that is additive identity property and multiplicative identity property kung tawagin. So, let's focus additive identity property. The sum of any number and 0 is the given number itself. Let's have an example. So, any number plus 0, the resulting sum is the given number itself. So, if 5 add the 0 is also 5. If can add the 0, the result is also 8. So, this is called additive identity property. So, what have you noticed? The same itself, so this is called identity. So, what the given? The answer is ka-identity, but take note, if you will add with 0, so, therefore, the identity element for addition is 0. Now, for multiplicative identity property, the product of any number and 1 is the given number itself. But this time, this is already multiplication because we are referring to the product. So, any number we multiplied to 1, the resulting product is the given number itself. Let's have an example. Okay, I have here 5 times 1, that's is 5. And 8 times 1 is still 8. So, they are identical. So, it means same identity. So, this is called multiplicative identity property. Now, what makes you product as similar to the given? Because they are multiplying by 1. So, therefore, the identity element is for multiplication is 1. Next property is the inverse property. So, inverse property states that when a number is added to its additive inverse, the sum is 0, and when a number is multiplied by its multiplicative inverse, the product is 1. So, we have additive inverse property. Additive inverse property, the sum of any number and its additive inverse is 0. Let's have an example. As you can see, this positive 5 plus negative 5, this is negative 8, positive 8, negative 9, positive 9. So, what do you mean by additive inverse property? So, this is it, negative 5, 8, and 9. So, this is called opposite of the first given number. So, why add? Because it is additive inverse means opposite. So the resulting is always 0. If you notice the additive inverse property, always answer is 0. Now, let's have multiplicative inverse property. Multiplicative inverse property, the product of any number and its multiplicative inverse or reciprocal is 1. So, this is we are referring to multiplication since the word here is product. Let's have an example. How to get the reciprocal? So, 5 is equivalent to 1. So, 5 over 1 is reciprocal of 5 over 1 or 1/5. Negative 8, that is equivalent of 1. So, ang reciprocal is negative 1 over 8. So, remember, if any number is negative or positive, the reciprocal or multiplicative inverse is also negative or positive. Let's back the product of any number and its multiplicative inverse or reciprocal is 1. So take note, if y we called additive inverse property, this is opposite, and y we called multiplicative inverse property, we need to get the reciprocal. So again, if it's negative, the reciprocal is negative. If it's positive, the reciprocal is also positive. And the product is always 1.
Thank you for watching.